Hey everybody, Harris here with On the Run. So in this video, I want to talk Boston Marathon tips from the perspective of someone who went to Boston College and ran the 4 Newton Hills and kind of the miles 16 through 21 of the course probably 150 times and ran the Newton Hills probably 250, 300 times over the years, as well as someone who has run the marathon twice, 2021 and 2022, a 237 and a 231. So I have a lot of experience with, I think, the toughest part of the course and just the course in general. I want to share a bunch of tips that I think will help you with the race. So tip number 1 is actually just 2 videos that I would recommend you watch. John Hancock has a nice 9-minute video that's just like a car's perspective of the course. Gives you a good idea of the elevation and scenery, things like that. That's a good video to watch. And then if you're really interested in seeing the tangents and the hills and all this kind of stuff, there is a 3-hour and 10-minute first-person perspective GoPro video of literally the whole thing. So check that out if you really want to learn the hills and all that kind of stuff, or you can just go to certain parts of the course and see what it looks like for you. Okay, tip number 2. Of course, there are 4 hills, the 4 famous Newton Hills. I think most people forget about the first hill. That's around mile 16. You go down a big downhill when you're leaving. I think it's Wellesley that you're finally leaving. Big downhill, so make sure you relax on that. But then you go uphill to get kind of over the highway bypass, and then you get to Washington Street. Okay, that's number 1. The second hill is, of course, when you hit the firehouse on the corner of Washington and Comm Ave and you start your ascent up Commonwealth. Then about a mile up, you get another hill as you cross, was it Chestnut or Walnut? And then finally, you get Heartbreak Hill 4. 4 hills in the latter half of the race, tough. Yes, however, each hill is relatively short. Heartbreak is probably the longest of the hills, and the Firehouse Hill at Washington and Comm Ave is the steepest of the hills, I think. You just basically have to get yourself to the top, and then each one has a nice reward afterwards. The first hill, once you get to the top of it's kind of a long, gradual hill. You just get to the top, and then you get over a mile of just very flat on Washington Street. You have fans, you get, I think, a gel after that point, and of course, you get a water station or 2. So you get a nice chance to recover. So don't burn yourself out on the hills, even if you have to slow down a little bit, and then you have a nice time to recover. Secondly, the Firehouse Hill, the second hill, that one's pretty steep. That one's tough, but just get through it. Just get to the top, and then you have a nice downhill after that. A nice downhill and chance to recover, and then you have maybe close to a mile, maybe a little bit less until the next hill. That one's shorter, but it's kind of steep. Again, just get to the top, and then you have a nice little dip. You get to relax, let your heartbeat rest a little bit, and then you just have to mentally prepare yourself for heartbreak, which is not steep and doesn't even look that scary. It's just the fact that you're at mile 20, 21. It's like, quarter mile, 0.3 of a mile or something like that. It's okay if your pace slows down a little bit. Just get to the top. However you get to the top, if you just slow down a lot, that's okay. It's not going to tank your time by any means as long as you just keep trudging. And of course, you get to the top and you get a nice downhill and then a tiny little roll after that. Then you hit Boston College, tons of people cheering for you. I think you get a gel around that point. And then a nice downhill, and it's basically downhill for the last 10 kilometers. Yes, there are 4 hills and they are tough, but they're manageable. Just get to the top of them and you get rewarded with a nice downhill. Just get to the top. Just tell yourself get to the top. Lots of fans to help you there. Okay, 4, practice downhills. So I didn't really realize this until after the second time I ran Boston. My quads were sore at mile 7 because of the downhill for the first really 4 miles. So if you can, practice downhill running at marathon pace. Your quads need to get used to that feeling of running downhill, especially as my pace was getting in the low 540s for my second marathon. That pounding was a surprise to me at mile 7. I hadn't felt soreness like that within a workout or a race before. So practice your downhill running to get used to the first 4 or 5 miles of the course. Now, speaking of the first 4 or 5 miles of the course, I personally would recommend don't bank time in there. Just run your marathon pace. My slowest mile, I think, of my 2 Bostons were my first mile because it's congested and slow, and I'm afraid of taking off too fast. So I would say just run your marathon pace the first 4 miles. Let it feel very easy, very in control. Trust me, it'll feel harder later, but that's my recommendation for the first 4 miles. Just take it at your normal pace. Okay, next, there's water cups at pretty much every station. Dehydration is a major factor, so drink as much as you can, but you also have to know your stomach, and just basically you're always kind of recalibrating to see how your stomach's doing, how your electrolytes are feeling, whether or not you want the water or the Gatorade, whether you need the sugar and the electrolytes or something easier on the stomach that's going to kind of wash out your mouth a little bit. You got to be negotiating with yourself and figuring that out. My strategy for when you're getting a cup is take it, dump out a little bit, and you pinch it so you have a nice small spout, and then you drink it. It's impossible to drink a full cup if it's completely open. You'll just splash it all over yourself. So I dump out a tiny bit, pinch, drink, good to go. I drink as much as I can because the first Boston at mile 21, my calf started cramping up. And the second marathon, I did not want that to happen, and it didn't because I was drinking and hydrating a lot. But Boston does a good job of keeping you hydrated, so take advantage of the Gatorade and the water. Next, number 6, I think if you have the ability to go to the start line and run the first 22 miles to BC, do it. But not many people, relatively speaking, have that opportunity. Not a problem if you can't, but it would help if you can. If you can't, watch one of those videos and just do lots of hill work wherever you live. 7, as of right now, Boston is partnered with Martin gels. I love those things. I would recommend taking the ones on the course and then bringing your own one at the start and then a couple more throughout the course. I think I took 6, alternating between caffeine and not. They're great, easy on the stomach, and they really helped me stay fueled the last 10K when it's easy to run out of energy. 11, you might want sunscreen. If it's going to be a sunny day, it's always possible that the sun peeks out. And because it's basically a one-way, no-turn course, there's like 1 or 2 turns really. My most recent Boston, basically one half of my body got fried just because one half of my body was in the sun for 2 hours and 31 minutes. So it doesn't hurt to get sunscreen just to be safe. And you'll only really need it on like one half of your body, but it doesn't hurt to put it on your whole body. Next, on your bib, put your name or something for people to identify you with, because people are cheering, they're rambunctious. That's what makes Boston great, and it feels awesome to hear your name called or whatever. So put something on your bib or some way to be recognized. When I ran, I had my Boston College singlet on, which was awesome because everyone in Boston knows of BC, and it's such an integral part of the course because we pass BC. So there are constantly, every half mile, people yelling out, "Go Eagles" and "Go BC" and stuff like that, which every time I got a little bit of an adrenaline boost, which was awesome. Also, if you ever need to manufacture your own adrenaline boost, as you're running past a group of fans, just kind of throw your hands up in the air and get them to cheer for you. That usually helped for me. Okay, next. One thing that Boston kind of drops the ball on is the post-race amenities. They're kind of lackluster. It's pretty much all sugar. You get like Gatorade, banana, maybe like a granola bar. At least in my 2 years, it's been the worst of any major race I've done in terms of post-race amenities. So my big thing is that if you do the bag check, absolutely put in a protein bar or something, because I have not had protein for hours after my 2 Bostons. Yeah, I mean, it's my fault, but Boston didn't help. So put in a protein bar in your checked bag, or have someone waiting for you, or just go to a convenience store and get a protein bar after the race or something, nutrition, because you just worked hard. Yeah, you should get some food. And know your plans after the race too, because it gets chaotic. Okay, and then a big tip for me, I went crazy when I got to the top of Boston College because all my friends were there. So I was giving everyone high fives and had my hand in the air. It was probably a little bit of hubris, right? It was probably flying a little close to the sun. I ran like a 5:30 mile 21, 22, which was tough. So make sure that you go easy on the downhills. Don't sprint them. It will come back to haunt you. But all in all, I think Boston is a super manageable course. I think for my running style, I love it because you get plenty of time to warm up because of that downhill start. So you don't really need to do much beforehand. And then the last few miles, they do have a little bit of rolling hills from time to time. Once you see the Sitco sign as you pass Fenway Park, you do have a little bit of an uphill, which isn't big at all. But when you're at mile, 23, 24, no, probably 24, it can feel like a lot. But it's a great course, tons of amenities, tons of people. The people are probably its best asset, but just a great race. So If you're running Boston this year or any future year, let me know. I'd love to hear your goal, your racing plan, your strategy, all this kind of stuff. Very manageable, very manageable. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.